Story 1. Home Too Soon. I was driving home from work late at night last spring, and to be honest, I was probably too tired to be driving. There was a truck in my blind spot when I changed into the left lane to turn into my street. I cut him off by accident and he slammed on the horn. I was shocked that someone was there, and I looked at him in the rearview mirror, gesturing and screaming at me, although I couldn't hear anything. I almost missed my turn, I was so surprised, but the other side of the road was clear and I made it into my subdivision. To my surprise, the guy in the truck followed me. I lived on a pretty quiet street, even for my subdivision, which was quiet in and of itself, and the guy in the truck continued to follow me as I made my way to it. I was in such a brain fog that as I drove down my street and into my own driveway, it didn't occur to me that the guy would continue to follow me. In the future, I know that you're supposed to drive around your neighborhood if a guy is following you to your house, and possibly drive to the police station if it continues long enough. Anyway, that didn't happen a year ago, and I was there standing in my driveway like an idiot while the guy in the truck blocked me in and got out of his truck. "You just aren't looking where you're going, are you?" the guy yelled at me. He started walking towards me and I ran for my door, telling him I would call the police. He yelled something back to me about how he should call the police on me for cutting him off. I admitted to him that I was sorry and that it had been a long day and I wasn't really paying attention. He told me sorry didn't cut it, as I almost got him killed. I got my front door unlocked in time and locked the screen door behind me. It was a glass screen door, and as he walked up to it, he knocked on it violently. No, you don't get to just walk into your house after that. "Okay, this is ridiculous. I'm calling the police," I said, and I got out my phone and dialed 911. He banged real hard on the screen door one more time and the glass shattered. Then he made his way back to his truck and left. I made a note of his license plate and reported what had happened to the police. They told me they'd look into it and that I would hear something back by the end of the week. I was so out of it that I was actually able to let the incident slip from my mind and relax a bit in the evening. I lived in the house by myself, and I always did a check on the locks to the doors before going to bed. I awoke in the middle of the night to a loud cracking noise. My bedroom window also faces the front of the house, and I looked at it to see what was going on. I didn't see the guy's truck, which was what I was expecting to see in my driveway, but I did see in my peripheral vision someone enter my house. Right through the front door, not a lot of tact behind it. I figured it must have been the guy, and I didn't waste time in calling 911. I could hear the sound of heavy footsteps in my front hall as the man was clearly deciding how to get to me and where I might be in the house. I weighed the decision of whether or not to lock my bedroom door. It was an old hardwood floor and the creaking might reveal my position. And then again, if he could get through my locked front door, which was a much thicker slab of wood, he would be easily able to get through my bedroom door. After making so many stupid decisions earlier that day, I figured it was best to just leave the door be, and let all the closed doors in the house bait him around for a bit. The 911 operator said that there would be an officer out to my house in no time, and in my house I could hear no new footsteps. I figured he must have gone left when he came in the front door, and I was relieved temporarily. I stayed on the line with the 911 operator, but I told her that I didn't really want to talk, and I didn't think it was a good idea. Then, I heard the footsteps again. He made his way to this side of the house. There were two other closed doors next to my bedroom door. A closet and another bedroom, and I heard his footsteps stop just outside of the trio. However, this was a chance I wasn't willing to take. 1 in 3. I bolted out of bed and ran and locked my door as quickly as I could, obviously revealing my position as I heard him open the closet door instead. "Oh, there you are," he said. I yelled through the door that I've called the police and they're on their way, but that didn't seem to deter him as he began ramming a crowbar against my door and trying to pry it open, ripping off pieces of the thin wooden door as he did so. I took my phone into my ensuite bathroom and closed that door, locking it as well. I heard him get into my room and was now standing outside the ensuite bathroom door as I began fiddling with the window screen. I pushed it out and got out of the house just in time as he entered the bathroom. I ran down the street as the cops arrived and told them about where he was. They found him and arrested him, and he's currently in jail. Story 2. Boiling water. I was kind of stupid in university, and I saw this video on YouTube one night where this guy in Russia throws a pot of boiling water over his balcony and it evaporates instantly. Now, he was working with temperatures somewhere around -40, and at the time where I lived it was only -10. But I figured that seemed like an interesting little trick, and I wanted to try it out. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment at the time, on the 3rd floor. Not even that high up. I boiled a pot of water on the stove and heaved the water into the alleyway. Imagine my horror when I saw my upstairs neighbor passing underneath at the time. He was wearing a waterproof jacket that took most of the heat, but his right hand was burned in the process as well. I couldn't believe how stupid I had been, and my heart stopped, thinking he would press charges and I would be in jail by the next week. He screamed and looked up at me. I ducked behind my windowsill, hoping he didn't notice, but in an hour there were cops at my door. I was absolutely beside myself with panic, and I felt like I just had to deny it, no matter what. There were no cameras in the alleyway, at least none that looked up high enough to see me or where the water would have come from. They told me he was sure it was me, and I told them I felt sorry for that man for what happened, but the water must have come from somewhere else. They told me not to leave the country, that they would continue their investigation into the next week, and they'd be in touch. I felt so sick to my stomach, and I couldn't believe that it happened. I spent most of the afternoon just pacing back and forth when I noticed something in the corner of my eye, standing towards the back of the alley. It was my neighbor from the 4th floor, watching me from the ground. It took me a minute to realize it was him, but then I quickly shut the blinds. Half an hour later came a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole. It wasn't the police. It was him. And I didn't answer. He had the most dead look in his eyes, and I saw his hand. It looked pretty badly burned. After about 5 minutes of standing there, staring at the peephole, he walked away to the stairwell. The rest of the evening, he was making a lot of noise above me, stomping, things dragging across the ground. I wasn't sure if this in itself was his revenge or if he was planning something greater. But on top of the police stress, it was almost too much to bear. I lay awake most of the night, and at about 4 in the morning I heard the sound of a drill. It sounded like it was coming from my living room. I got up out of bed and entered the living room, and I heard the drill coming from the ceiling. Then the drill bit broke through, and I saw that a hole had been created between the 2 floors. "Okay, you need to stop that or I'm gonna call the police," I told him desperately. "Call them if you like, freak. You pour boiling water on my hand and then you drill these holes in my floor. I think you'll have quite the rap sheet of harassing me." I'd never heard that tone in his voice before, and I was afraid that he was right. Maybe if I called the cops, they'd assume I drilled the holes since I was already under investigation. I tried to look up through the holes and saw light for a bit. Then darkness covered it. He started drilling in another spot above my bed. I freaked out again and realized there was nothing I could really do to stop it. I couldn't sleep at all for the rest of the night, and come 7 a.m. I had to start getting ready for work. I triple-checked when I left my house to make sure the door was locked. My workday was a bit slow, luckily, and I was able to catch up on some sleep in the break room. I work as a barista at a coffee shop. When I returned home, it seemed like my power was out, and I couldn't see very well. Using my phone flashlight, I looked around my apartment and noticed that it was covered with bugs, cockroaches, centipedes, you name it. I assumed they must have been put in there from the hole in the ceiling. I had no idea where someone would even find this many bugs, other than maybe a fishing store? Crickets too, by the way, which might help that check out. I was disgusted and called maintenance and pest control. I really didn't want to stay in the apartment that night, but I was a poor student and I had nowhere else to go. I killed as many of the bugs as I could. It must have been hundreds by the time I was done. But I had a feeling I wasn't done with this type of stuff that night. I set up my laptop webcam to record the hole in my ceiling over my bed and tried to go to sleep. I just knew some other sinister thing would be arriving through those holes at any moment. And I was right. The dark spot covering the top of the hole was removed, and a glimmer of light shone through briefly. Then, A clear liquid started dripping through the ceiling. At first, I assumed it was boiling water, and I got out of my bed and stepped to the side of it to watch what would happen. To my horror, the liquid hissed when it made contact with my comforter. It appeared to be some type of acid as it burned through. Now that I had it on video, I felt more confident calling the police. He's in prison now, and I never ended up getting caught with the boiling water. So if he ever gets out, I feel like I'm gonna be dead. Thanks for listening, guys. For new videos next Thursday, subscribe and hit the bell, and also tune in on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Nightmare Theater, an open book club for nightmares. You can also submit your nightmares to theforgottengrove@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to read them on stream and credit you or keep you anonymous, however you'd like to do it. Until next time, embrace the beautiful dark.